Once upon a time, I was a teenager in East Tennessee in the 1990s. Any East Tennesseans? I think there's some Holston Valley folks here. Yeah? And in those days, in the 90s, there were a series of billboards across the entire Southeast. Perhaps you remember them. I'll bet you do. They were striking and they were memorable. They were black billboards with giant white block letters, and they were direct quotes from an authoritative, macho dad god. Quotes such as, "See you Sunday before the game, God." And also, love thy neighbor, that love thy neighbor thing, I meant that, God. And finally, I also remember, don't make me come down there, God. It's like all it said. I don't know who paid for the campaign, but it felt Southern Baptist in its pervasive assumption that everyone in Southern America would easily agree about its correct assumptions that God was a spare the rod, spoil the child kind of father who'd throw the football with his son, ignore his daughter, and expected dinner on the table. And expected dinner on the table when he got home from a long day of working at the Office of Creation. And I would sit there in the back seat of the car looking up at those billboards that cut right through the valleys and green mountains. And I would wonder, why didn't my Unitarian Universalist church have billboards? And if they did, what would they say? It's actually the question I'm still answering. So don't be surprised one day. Like soon. It's like billboard time, I think, has arrived, yeah. The biblical prophet Amos surely would have taken out a similar ad campaign quoting God directly. But if the biblical prophet Amos had purchased billboards across the nation, they would have said things like, "Let justice roll down like water and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream, God." Or perhaps they would have said, "Hate evil, love good, maintain justice in the courts, God." I also think he would have had a billboard that said something like, "Thoughts and prayers will not bring justice. Only you can do that, God." I do think that's what Amos would have said, and Sadie's going to tell you a little more about that too. One major feature of the biblical prophets is that they were on the direct other end of the phone line with God. God told me to tell you to stop your sacrifices and your ritual, your music and your prayers, and just do the work of justice. Right? God? Yes? Yes? Yep, that's what he said. What's that, God? You got to free the enslaved. You got to feed the poor. You got to do the work of justice and leave the thoughts and prayers behind, okay? It's not about thoughts and prayers. It's about the actual justice. When your government is disappearing scholars who contribute beautifully to their community and to our society, you must demand justice with persistence. You must never give it up. You must never stop demanding it. God said that. God said that's what you're supposed to do. Okay, I think right now you can understand why it wasn't enough for Amos alone, just a guy like everyone else, to shout at people that the prayers, no matter how earnest, cannot actually end school shootings. Amos had probably tried saying that already. in a lot of different ways. And he had probably been laughed out of many rooms. In fact, I think he'd already been spat on. I think he'd already been shouted down, and I think he'd already been shot at. So you can understand why Amos was searching for a higher authority than the military state of Caesar. Caesar, who called himself Lord, who called himself Savior, who called himself King, who called himself Son of God in his divine right to be Caesar. So here we are today, in our time, looking around for someone who can be the higher authority, someone who can stop our Caesar, president, would-be dictator. Who can check him? The Canadian Prime Minister? Like Bill Gates or billionaire or somebody? Chief Justice John Roberts, can he do it? Xi Jinping, president of China? Who will be the higher authority above this freewheeling tyrant we are now dealing with? The situation was even more dire in Amos's time, and so his truth to power, his prophecy required a higher authority. And this is our truth in our time. You see, we do have higher executive orders, my friends. We are called by the divine love that will not let us go, to go out and inspire one another, to share our little piece of the star, to be strategists for love and justice, to care for one another all the while, to play both the short game and the long game. Strategists, to tell the story of our resistance with passion and, what was that from yesterday? Riz, charisma. We've all got it. We all have our own Riz. And we cannot wait until the prophets of our time are safely dead to make our move. And the reason is because the prophets of our time are sitting next to you right now. They are us now. They are in the town halls, they are in the school board meetings, they are in the churches, they are in the law firms, they are in the streets. They are actually everywhere. They are sitting next to you now. And you have a truth to power moment that is coming your way. It may be coming your way this week or next. And you are equipped with the authority of your faith, of your higher power, of your values, of your great love that is calling you to speak and to act now. So, what does your holy billboard say? That's a serious question. I'll get you started with the t-shirt I saw yesterday from someone at Soul Summit. God is trans. That's a billboard. Keep your laws off my body. Immigrants make America great. Incarcerated people deserve dignity. Free Palestine. Okay, what does your holy billboard say? What does your holy billboard say? Yes. Nothing to lose but your chains.
If they can disappear a resident green card holder, they can disappear a citizen.
They can disappear one, they can disappear all. Love with no exceptions. All you fascists bound to lose. We are all made in God's image. What would Jimmy Carter do? All right, so we'll see some billboards coming to us. So let's go. Let's get out there and make it so.
You know the story about the long-handled spoons? One day a man said to God, I want to know what heaven and hell are like. So God showed the man two doors. Behind the first one, in the middle of the room, a large round table and a big pot of stew. And it smelled delicious. And it made his mouth water. And the people sitting around the table were thin and sickly. And they're holding spoons with really, really long handles. And they found it possible to reach into the pot of stew and get a spoonful, but the handle was longer than their arms, so they couldn't get the stew to the mouth. And the man shuddered at the terrible sight of their misery, and God said, "You have seen hell." Now, beside the second door, same room, same table, same large pot of wonderful stew with the amazing aroma and the same weird spoons. And all the people were fat and happy, talking, laughing, and God said, "You have seen heaven." And the man said, "I don't get it." And God said, "It's simple. There is enough, but they feed each other." I went to a picnic in the park last Sunday in Greensboro, where I live, with some congregants and my family and an organization in Greensboro that provides meals to our unhoused neighbors. Now, we have a weird city rule that you cannot, quote, share food in the park, but they don't mean me and my friends can't have a picnic. They mean they are trying to sort of clean up public spaces. And they speak about it this way, in this terrible and dehumanizing way, as if human beings who are hungry are something to be cleaned up. Truly disgusting. So the cops came. And so the cops came. So we're having a picnic. There's a big community meal happening, a big line. So our unhoused neighbors are in this line. So we all sent our kids in the line. And so our kids and our unhoused neighbors are all in this big, long line going through and getting their pulled pork. And the cops came, and I told them, we're just here from church, and we're just sharing a meal with our neighbors, and I have to offer a prayer, and it might take a while. They were like, "Well, Reverend, of course. My talent is to kindly speak to the police and not do what they say. So we're gonna have a prayer, and it's gonna go a little while." And what I discovered is that they think that this rule is really dumb, and they don't want to enforce it at all. They're like, "Please, we don't want to arrest you. Like, please don't make us." And we're like, "Well, what if we pack up after the prayer circle?" So I kind of thought we were just doing some public theater. You know, I was like, "All right, everybody, get in a circle. We don't actually have to pray if you don't want, but we got to look like it, because all these people need to make it through the line and get lunch." Well, what happened actually totally changed my life, which happens sometimes when you think you know what's going on. So I prayed, and then my congregants prayed, and there were a bunch of Quakers there, and so they prayed, and then some strangers prayed, and then we looked over our shoulders at the line, and we were like, "Anybody else?" You know? We sang, "We Shall Not Be Moved." And I sort of thought we were just like doing a stunt, because we kept like... And what happened is that the actual prayer was one of the most powerful and spiritually transformative experiences of my entire life. Because people are hungry. People are hungry. People are starving for public spaces that are nourishing, and for a faith that says that some things are right and some things are wrong. For our higher executive orders, as my colleague in Greensboro, the Reverend Amelia Fulbright, preached to her congregation after Trump started doing Trump stuff, for instruction and leadership to disobey the powers that be, to instead obey justice rolling down like water, righteousness like an ever-flowing stream, the natural law among us, that I feed my neighbor, that I suffer when my neighbor suffers, I delight in my neighbor's delight. Now, Dr. King said, "Let justice roll down like water and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream," because the prophet Amos said, "Let justice roll down like water and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream." But here's what Amos says before that. From the voice of God to a kingdom that has abandoned the poor and the sorrowful. I despise your festivals. I take no delight in your solemn assemblies. Even though you offer me your burnt offerings and your grain offerings, I will not accept them. The offerings of well-being of your fatted animals, I will not look upon. Take away from me the noise of your songs. I will not listen to the melody of your harps, but let justice roll down like water and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Cut it out with the thoughts and prayers and feed your neighbor. In Amos's words, God hates the festivals and the offerings and the music of the ones who abandon the poor and the sorrowful. God's judgment on the kingdom which has exploited and disregarded the ones who suffer and worshiped something other than the God of love. Now, for Unitarian Universalists, we don't mostly believe in a God who judges the living and the dead. It's like not really so much our deal. And we definitely don't believe in eternal punishment, though I gotta tell you, there are some days. There are some days when I'm like, oh, universalism is really hard today. But luckily, our religion is not just my opinions, so this is very helpful for me in my spiritual life. So we do not believe a God who judges the living and the dead, and we don't believe in eternal damnation or punishment. So how do we hear the call of the prophets? The prophets are howling in rage at the violation of the sacredness of human life. You can hear Amos's fury, a hopeful fury, because the prophets are not telling you what will happen like a weather forecast. The prophets offer a mighty wailing about what is right and what is wrong, a warning about a doom that could yet be averted if we act. The prophets say, woe unto you if you continue to exploit the earth and abandon the poor. The prophets rage at the injustice of what is because they believe so hard in what could be otherwise. And this rage is a door to possibility. Any of y'all have a holy rage sometimes? The prophets are artists of what is possible. The prophets do not predict. They are artists of what is possible. And our faithful response, the faithful response of Unitarian Universalists, who mostly do not believe in God's judgment, but who want nonetheless to heed the call of the prophets, is to become obsessed with what is possible. This is the life of faith for us. We believe in co-creating with the divine. We accept responsibility for putting our shoulders to the wheel of history, bringing heaven down to earth. We look with clear and sober eyes at the suffering around and within us. We weep over the bodies of the murdered and the martyred. We hold our children and we mourn for those whose children have gone cold. Our hearts grow large with all we are losing, large enough to embrace every last person in every corner of the earth, large enough to withstand the devastation bearing down on us. Because we know that in every moment, the choices before us are the same. Worship false idols of consumerism, isolation, going it alone. I'll just give up and get mine. I have a Chrome plugin that replaces the phrase "the economy" with "Lord Mammon." And so, you read articles and it's like, people are starving, but Lord Mammon is doing great. And it really kind of delivers the point. So either we are worshiping false idols of consumerism, isolation, going it alone, I'll just give up and get mine, or we heed the call of the prophets. We devote our lives to the divine possibilities unfolding among us and around us. We build beloved and beautiful communities, show outrageous hospitality, UUCA has gone first. Delight in the wide array of humanity, even if it's confusing to you personally. I mean, I have teenagers, I have a preteen, like they're confusing. Nonetheless, delight. Okay? Believe so hard in heaven on earth that you cannot help but work toward its becoming. Hear this. The strength of those whom we call prophets and the call of all people of faith is the ability to love the world as it is, even though it breaks our hearts, and to love the world as it yet could be, even though we are so hungry for it. So we grab hands with one another with our broken hearts yet beating, and we lean with all our might toward heaven on earth. If we don't believe in a God who's going like this, the process theologians describe the divine who is not a tour guide showing us our free will and then folding his arms and going, you choose, and I hope you don't choose wrong. The process theologians describe co-creation with the divine, what the author Leigh Bardugo calls the making at the heart of the world. The divine is the invitation to feed each other, luring us toward the love that sets us free. The divine is the soup and the smell of it, present and delicious and available. The spoons we use to feed each other and our open and hungry mouths. Heaven on earth is when we all are fed. Heaven on earth is where all people are celebrated for who they are, where we glory in the spectrums of gender and sexuality, where we build ever wider doors and throw ever more raucous parties to know ourselves and one another more deeply. UUCA, heaven on earth is your all-gender spa bathrooms. I've seen it. I've been in there. Last spring, I went to an iftar, a dinner that Muslims share together to break their fast after sundown during this holy month of Ramadan. Organized by a group called Muslim Women For, this dinner was mostly attended by Sudanese and Palestinian women. People whose hearts are breaking for the devastation in their countries. People who struggle and laugh and gather and pray, eating chicken, rice, beef, and yogurt sauce made by somebody's immigrant mom, fasting out of choice. Fasting out of choice. Heaven on earth is where they all have the right of return, where they eat good food that reminds them of their parents' homes and where they feel home here. Where if they choose, they wear hijabs and they complement each other's choice of color in freedom. Where they celebrate Ramadan, knowing that if there are Muslims around the world who are hungry, it's because they are choosing to fast, secure in the bounty that awaits them on Eid. In Greensboro, we've been going to eviction court as a part of a campaign for more city and county funding for legal aid. It's a campaign called Keep Gate City Housed. Legal aid lawyers help to prevent or delay evictions long enough for people to get back on their feet. Heaven on earth is where everyone has a safe place to lay their heads. Heaven on earth is a picnic in the park with my neighbors. We'll invite the cops, just, take the uniform off. Heaven on earth is where everyone's fed. Heaven on earth is where the worth and dignity of every person is honored, where wounds are healed, where every tear is dried and every need met with compassion. Heaven on earth is where there are no walls or borders or prisons or cages, where nobody hoards. Where nobody hoards, so nobody starves. Where no one goes hungry, where everyone has enough. Heaven on earth is not guaranteed, but the promise of our faith, the very best of our humanism, is that heaven on earth is possible. Revelation is not sealed, says Unitarian theologian James Luther Adams. God has changed, says science fiction writer Octavia Butler. I believe 6 impossible things every day before breakfast, says the Queen of Hearts. Let justice roll down like waters. and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream, say the prophets.